Transgrading into the primordial world, you find yourself as a spiritual stone monkey. You initially expected to suffer the fate of the journey to the west, but unexpectedly Hong Jun has just become a saint. Reflecting on your past life, where Sun Wukong was imprisoned by the Buddha for 500 years, then forced to wear the golden headband, and subsequently reduced to a mere enforcer for the Tathagata during the journey to the west, scene after scene of these memories flashed through your mind. You were struck by a shuddering resolve. I must contend for a sainthood. I will stake everything against those who stand in my way. Gazing at the manifestation of the great Tao between heaven and earth, you immediately began to circulate your cultivation. You studied and comprehended the Tao laws without pause. This was a supreme opportunity, one rarely encountered in a billion years. Under normal circumstances, the power of laws is fused with the fundamental nature of the primordial world, remaining hidden and extremely difficult to cultivate. Now that this chance has arrived, to let it slip by would be a betrayal of the great sage himself. Furthermore, you only have a time frame of 100,000 years. If you fail to break through to the Luo Golden Immortal realm, you will not even be able to enter the chaos, let alone contend for a position as a saint. At this moment, not only you, but all living beings across the primordial world refuse to waste this blessing, all of them frantically cultivating and seeking enlightenment. After an hour, the manifestation of the great Tao laws finally dissipated, and the primordial world returned to its usual state. Yet you did not awaken, remaining deeply immersed in your insights. In the primordial world, time holds no meaning. The 100,000-year limit approached rapidly, and streaks of light, radiating powerful auras, surged directly toward the chaos beyond the heavens. They surged directly toward the chaos beyond the heavens. Meanwhile, inside the immortal stone atop the mountain of flowers and fruit, you had reached a critical juncture. Within your primordial spirit, an ethereal lotus flower slowly bloomed, petal, 2 petals, 9 petals. As the 9th petal took form, the lotus transformed from illusion to reality, and with a sudden bang. Following a thunderous explosion, the immortal stone shattered, and a figure sitting in meditation appeared atop the mountain of flowers and fruit. Clad in black robes with a face as refined as fine jade, you slowly opened your eyes and reached out to brush the air in front of you. Using your magic power, you manifested a mirror. Admiring your own reflection, a look of satisfaction appearing on your face. After indulging in a moment of vanity, you waved your hand to dispel the mirror. With a flicker of thought, a mysterious black staff appeared in your hand. A mysterious black staff appeared in your hand. Inscribed on the body of the staff were the 2 characters, Shatter Void. Once a supreme treasure of chaos, it had been heavily damaged by Pangu's axe, and now it was a top-tier innate spirit treasure. As you gently caressed the staff, the engraving shifted, revealing 3 large golden-plated characters. With a light swing of the golden-hooped staff, a smile touched your lips. The Deluo realm is achieved. It is time to go to Zixiao Palace. No, it is time to go listen to the Tao. Having spoken, he did not sheath the golden staff, but instead rested it upon his shoulder. With a single step, his figure vanished into thin air. Within the primordial chaos of the heavens, a colossal purple palace drifted through the infinite void, emanating supreme majesty. This was the Zixiao Palace. Before the palace, countless powerful beings stood amidst the chaos, the laws of the Tao swirling around their bodies as they resisted the erosion of the chaotic gale, calmly awaiting the moment the palace gates would open. Figures continued to arrive from all directions, and in the distance where the chaotic energy surged and churned, 3 figures were locked in combat while advancing toward Zixiao Palace. This spectacle caused the great cultivators to turn their heads, curious to see who dared to clash within the boundless chaos. Should one's spiritual power be exhausted in such a place, they would be utterly obliterated by the chaotic aura. Women, do not push your luck. If you do not cease this attack, I will be forced to retaliate. You swung your staff to deflect the incoming strikes. 2 beams of light, radiating extreme cold, shattered upon impact as you looked toward your 2 opponents with growing impatience. They were the 2 primordial deities of the Taiyan star, Shihei and Changxi. Both were dressed in pure white, their features exquisitely beautiful, yet their temperament icy, their bodies wreathed in the cold energy of the Tao. Shameless scoundrel, you dared to taunt us. Today, we shall not let you leave this place alive. Shihei glared at you with an icy expression, her voice clear and sharp, while Changxi also regarded you with undisguised hostility. As those words were spoken, your initial urge to flare up in anger faltered, and you felt a sense of injustice welling up within you. You had only just entered the chaos from the primordial land when you encountered Shihei and Changxi, and having recognized their cultivation foundations, out of the courtesy of a later generation, you had proactively offered a greeting, yet as soon as you used the word beauties, the 2 turned hostile. No matter how you attempted to explain, they refused to listen, pursuing and attacking you the entire way. Having reached this point, were it not for your reluctance to strike women, you would have dealt with them long ago, but now your patience had truly worn thin. The sermon was about to begin, and the seat of a saint awaited your contention. You had no time to waste bickering with these 2 women. With a look of helplessness, you raised the golden staff in your hand and brought it down with a single stroke. Boom. In an instant, a staff image 10,000 zhang in length manifested within the chaos, carrying immense crushing power as it descended directly toward the heads of Shihei and Changxi. The expressions of Shihei and Changxi changed drastically in an instant, and they hurriedly raised the supreme-grade primordial spiritual treasures in their hands, the Taiyan moon wheels blocking the strike with a resounding clang. Following a deafening clash of armaments, The bodies of Shihei and Changxi trembled violently, their feet involuntarily sliding back 1,000 jang. You did not press the attack, for there was no deep-seated enmity. You merely wished to teach them a lesson, lest they mistake your restraint for a lack of temper. Next time I will not hold back. With a warning glare cast in their direction, you left them with these words and turned to depart. Taking a single step, you traversed space as if folding the earth beneath your feet, appearing 1,000,000 jang away. Then your figure flickered, vanishing and reappearing as you surged toward the distant Zixiao Palace. Shihi and Changxi did not pursue. It was not out of fear, but because their limbs remained half-numb, leaving them truly devoid of the strength to give chase. Their hearts were filled with profound astonishment, for they never expected that the man they had been hunting, who had refused to retaliate for so long, would suddenly erupt with such formidable power. Sister, how could his strength be so overwhelming? The two of us could not withstand a single strike. Were you able to discern his origins? I could not. His primordial spirit is immensely powerful. I could not probe any information from him. Hearing Changxi's telepathic transmission, she shook her head. Then, shall we pursue him? Silent for a moment before replying, let us attend the saint's sermon first. Once our strength has increased, we shall avenge the humiliation of today. As you wish, sister. As they spoke, their bodies recovered their composure, and with the flow of Dao aura circulating around them, they too proceeded towards Zixiao Palace. Upon arriving before Zixiao Palace, you gazed at the gathering of great powers who had arrived early, retracted your golden staff, and waved your hand. Greetings, everyone. How fares everyone today? The great powers wore strange expressions on their faces, as this was the first time they had encountered such a greeting. While they were accustomed to traditional Taoist salutes, no one dared to utter a mocking word, and they all formally cupped their hands in return. The skirmish between the three of you just moments ago had been witnessed by them all. Two early-stage Luo Golden Immortals had joined forces, only to be repelled by a single blow from this man. While they felt no fear, they were all old foxes who had survived since the primordial dragon hand calamity, and none were reckless enough to sow causal karma without reason. At this moment, Shihi and Changxi arrived. They shot you a cold glance, but rather than demanding a fight, they quietly stood to one side. Waiting for the doors of Zixiao Palace to open, you remained unperturbed, observing the palace while silently assessing the strength of the many great powers present. Having decided to contend for a saint's position, one must know oneself and the enemy. One cannot simply charge forward blindly. There stood Sanqing, Fuxi, Nua, Dijin, Taiyi, Hongyun, Zhenyuanzi, Shihi, and Changxi. Scanning the crowd, you discovered that most were in the early stage of the Luo Golden Immortal realm, with only Taiqing, Fuxi, and Taiyi possessing mid-stage cultivation. Your heart eased slightly. It seemed your strength did not. Previously, he was anxious that his cultivation had begun too late and that he would be left far behind. Now, however, it appears that his heritage and innate talent remain formidable. It is only logical. After all, he is one of the four primordial chaos demon origins. Though some have yet to arrive, he suspects no existing entity possesses power that defies the heavens to such an extent. Not long after, Kunpeng and Minghe arrived. Take note, for both are at the early stage of the Luo Golden Immortal realm. At this moment, the Dao seal upon the great gates of Zixiao Palace trembled slightly. Then they slowly swung open, and a boy and a girl, two attendants appearing to be 10 years of age, stepped out from within. Your eyes flashed with a golden glint. Hoshin. Yaoqi, truly remarkable. They are also at the early stage of the Luo Golden Immortal realm. They are, after all, the ones residing beside the Dao ancestor. Hoshin, seeing everyone staring at him, showed no signs of fear. He clasped his hands and announced, "The master is already within the palace. Esteemed senior brothers and sisters, please enter." With a sudden burst of momentum, as soon as Hoshin finished speaking, a streak of azure light flashed, and he surged directly into Zixiao Palace. Shameless. The other great beings were momentarily stunned before they reacted, cursing under their breath as they hurriedly unleashed their divine abilities to charge toward the interior of Zixiao Palace. The space inside Zixiao Palace is vast, akin to a minor world. You were the first to rush inside. At a glance, you saw thousands of prayer mats arranged in the main hall, particularly the first row, where 7 mats shimmered with a mysterious Dao aura. In that moment, you felt as if invigorated by a surge of primal energy. Your face flushed, your speed skyrocketed once more, and you lunged directly toward the first mat on the left. Just as you were about to claim the seat, a streak of azure light flashed beside you, and 3 figures appeared simultaneously upon the first 3 mats. Sanqing, you cursed silently. With no time to dwell on it, you spun around and bolted toward the 4th mat. However, a formation suddenly manifested upon that mat. With a flicker of mysterious light, a graceful figure appeared directly upon it. Well played, Fuxi. You are truly ruthless, paving the way for your sister to attain sainthood. Your mouth twitched in silent indignation, and as you cursed under your breath, your figure flickered, and you appeared directly upon the 6th mat. Because the 5th mat was already occupied, Kunpeng is truly worthy of his title as the fastest in the world. You had moved first, yet still could not contend with them. As for Sanqing and Nua, the former acted with a combined force of 3, while the latter relied on Fuxi's formation. Neither was achieved through pure speed alone. By this time, the final mat was also occupied by an elderly man in red robes with a benevolent expression. Ancestor Hongyun is, after all, the first cloud of mist from when the primordial world was formed. His speed is also among the top tier. Tai was a step too slow. He originally intended to fight for a seat, but was dissuaded by Dijin. This is the domain of a saint. One could argue for the use of speed or divine abilities, but if a struggle resulted in the saint's displeasure, it would be the end of them. Although Thais was unwilling, he could only follow Dijin and sit in the second row of mats. Yet, he knew deep down that his brother and he had certainly missed something of great importance. After all, a saint would not create 7 distinct mats in the front row without reason, but it is too late to speak of it now unless he dares to risk the saint's rebuke. The other great beings, seeing that there was nothing left to contest, sighed and found random mats in the back to sit upon. Although you managed to secure a mat, you did not let down your guard. You know this is merely the beginning. Do not be deceived by everyone sitting so obediently in their places for now. However, as long as one person leads the challenge, the others will surely follow suit and take action. As for whether anyone would dare to make a move, you have no doubt, to say nothing of the others. They would not have dared to defect from the Swan Men and establish their own Buddhist sect later on. Therefore, as long as Hong Jun has not spoken, this position remains uncertain. I am Hong Yun. May I ask for your honorable name, Taoist brother? Just as you were deep in thought, Hong Yun sat down to your right, his expression gentle as he gazed over and smiled, initiating the conversation. Taoist Hong Yun, your speed just now was truly remarkable. It is not worth mentioning. It pales in comparison to your own divine abilities. Hong Yun immediately shook his head with humility, then revealed an expression of curiosity. That is right. I do not know where you practice your cultivation. I have spent millions of years wandering the primordial world, yet I have never encountered you before. As these words were spoken, the others also grew curious, as you seem to have descended from the heavens quite suddenly. I hail from the flower fruit mountain in the east. Just as you were about to speak, 3 figures suddenly rushed in. Apologies, brothers, our sect has arrived late. Everyone immediately turned to look, seeing 2 Taoists in gray robes, one with eyes crinkled in a smile, the other with a sorrowful expression, and behind them, a female cultivator of refined beauty. Your heart stirred slightly and you secretly raised your guard, realizing it was Junti and Jayan. After entering, Hote did not speak a word. She cast a glance at Dijin and Tiyi, then walked over to the final 3 empty prayer mats and sat down. Seeing that Hutu had taken her seat, Zhanti and Jayan looked at the only 2 remaining empty mats, then looked at the 7 mats already filled in the front, their expressions filled with conflict. Everyone watched silently, yet there was a glimmer of anticipation in their eyes, waiting to see if these 2 unwilling souls would make a move. However, Junti and Jian were not foolish. They knew this was a sage's dojo and that acting recklessly would yield no good result, yet they were deeply unwilling to yield. The 7 mats in front clearly held great secrets and great opportunities. Their expressions suddenly turned wretched, and a wail echoed through the hall. Senior brother, the fates of we 2 are truly miserable. Having traveled a vast distance from the bitter west to seek the Tao, he never expected that he would not even have a seat. Ji Yin was momentarily stunned, and then, coordinating with Junti's tear-streaked, mournful face, he kept glancing toward the 7 of you in the front. Although the other great powers looked on with disdain, they followed his gaze. However, the Sansheng merely closed their eyes to cultivate their spirit, showing no reaction while Nuwa was conversing with Fu Shi behind her. Kun Peng observed coldly, maintaining an aura that warned all strangers to keep their distance. You were looking at Hong Yun with curiosity, your eyes suddenly flashing with astonishment. This primordial world was somewhat different from what you expected. The greatest philanthropist of the primordial world was not taking the initiative to yield his seat, but immediately after, he cursed himself silently for being a fool. Had he read too many novels in his past life, to the point of losing his senses? He had actually believed it to be real, yet he was clearly not that foolish. Such a deceptive display of weeping, if he were simple enough to believe that, he would never have survived until this day. What did he mean there were no seats? Were there not still those 2 cushions standing there? Furthermore, even without a cushion, could one not listen just as well while sitting on the ground? While you were lost in these wandering thoughts, Hong Yin felt uneasy under your intense gaze. Taoist friend, why do you look at me so? It is nothing. It is nothing. You immediately shook your head and spoke with a stern expression. I merely think you look truly heroic, Taoist friend. Hong Yun gave you a strange look, then quietly shifted slightly to the right of his cushion. This scene left your forehead covered in black lines. What was the meaning of this? Before he could explain, Jun Ti, who had been secretly observing from the side, saw Hong Yun shift, his eyes lit up, and then his figure flickered. He arrived before Hong Yun, saying, "Many thanks, Taoist friend, for yielding your seat," and as he spoke, he moved forward, intending to shove Hong Yun aside. With a loud boom, a burst of crimson light suddenly erupted from Hong Yun's body, and he was instantly sent flying. However, Jun Ti, who had originally been moving in a different direction, strangely traced an arc in the air. You gritted your teeth, your eyes flashing with ferocity, and threw a punch directly, striking Jun Ti in the back. You held nothing back with this strike. Caught off guard, Jun Ti was sent crashing away with great force. He fell heavily to the ground, blood spilling from the corners of his mouth. You could not be blamed for your heavy hand. He had intended that if he could not secure a seat through negotiation, he would use force to seize one from others. Now that you had secured yours based on your own ability, only for someone to attempt to seize it from you in return, it ignited your fury. How bold you! Without hesitation, he cast forth his ultimate innate spiritual treasure, the precious banner of Jai Yin. Golden light swirled across the banner, carrying an immense pressure as it descended to suppress you. A fierce gleam ignited within your eyes. You summoned the golden boundless staff directly, channeling the laws of the Tao into it. You did not dodge or parry, but instead struck fiercely at the descending precious banner. Get lost. With a deafening roar, the precious banner was sent flying back into Jia Yin's hand. The golden light upon it appeared notably dimmed. Witnessing the dimming luster of his treasure, Jia Yin felt a surge of shock, such immense power. He had assumed defeating a nascent practitioner would be effortless, yet the combat prowess of his opponent was in no way inferior to his own. The other great powers standing by were equally struck with astonishment. First, they were shocked that anyone dared to initiate combat within a saint's Taoist temple. Second, they were stunned by your combat strength. They had observed his battles in the chaos before, but from a distance it had not felt as jarring as witnessing this direct confrontation. However, following the initial shock, their eyes began to gleam with avarice. A battle had truly begun. Saint had yet to appear, which implied tacit permission. The position was to be seized by skill alone, and the great powers began to stir, eager to intervene. Sensing the shift, your heart sank. The others intended to usurp your holy seat. At this realization, you were instantly provoked. Having absorbed the primordial essence of the chaos demon ape, you usually maintained your composure. But any provocation would stir your innate, violent, and belligerent nature. Like now, you unleashed your full aura. Your once slender physique swelled, becoming overwhelmingly imposing and muscular. The aura, wild and tyrannical, caused the pupils of many early-stage Luo Golden Immortals to contract in fear. Even Tai Ching, Fu Shi, Tai Yi, and Jie Yin, 4 mid-stage Luo Golden Immortals, could not help but feel a secret tremor of dread. Your aura was no less than theirs. With a savage expression, you glared at Ji Yin. You seek to steal my position? You have chosen the wrong opponent. Taste another blow. As the words left your lips, the golden boundless staff expanded to a colossal size, descending toward the crown of Ji Yin's head. Jia Yin's expression shifted, and he once again flung his precious banner into the air. It expanded, overflowing with golden radiance. The Taoist essence collided with the golden boundless staff. Jia Yin's body shuddered, his feet unable to maintain their ground. He retreated 2 steps before stabilizing himself. You also stepped back twice, momentarily dislodging from your meditation cushion. The other great powers saw this, their eyes brightening, and they could not help but take a step forward, a movement you immediately perceived. Your eyes turned blood red in an instant. Who dares to covet my position? With a furious roar, the aura surrounding your body turned violent and unrestrained. A vast killing intent blanketed more than half of the Zixiao Palace. The footsteps of the great powers suddenly came to a halt. Seeing this, you hurriedly stepped forward twice. Once again, you stood firmly upon the meditation cushion, gripping the golden cudgel in your hand. Your eyes revealed a fierce light as you scanned the crowd. You appeared ready to fight to the death, sensing your powerful, violent aura. Along with that frantic gaze, the eyes of many great powers flickered. You seemed like a madman, a difficult person to provoke and an even harder one to deal with. Contemplating this, some began to shift their gazes toward the other 6 individuals in the front row. This immediately startled the 6 who were merely watching the spectacle, causing them to hastily manifest their spiritual treasures and unleash their full aura. The 3 pure ones stood together while Fuxi and Nua remained side by side. Zhen Yuanzi stood beside Hong Yun, only Kunpeng, like you, stood alone. Yet he felt no fear. His eyes revealed a ruthless expression as he unleashed his aura, showing no intention of yielding his seat. There are only 9 of them, and we have the advantage in numbers. Let us first defeat them, then divide the positions. At this moment, an ethereal voice echoed, leaving no clue as to its origin, and no one bothered to investigate who it was. For this voice had struck a chord with the majority. Only in the midst of chaos would they have a chance. After all, even now, the saint had yet to reveal himself to intervene. Thinking of this, the great powers who had failed to secure a front row seat found their gazes becoming increasingly dangerous as they slowly manifested their spiritual treasures. The situation teetered on a knife's edge. Yet the instigator was Junti. He was currently pulling Jayan behind the crowd of great powers, his eyes flickering as he never ceased watching you and Hong Yun. You, having kept a constant watch on him, noticed this. You gritted your teeth in hatred. Junti was truly insidious. Having failed to rob Hong Yun, he now intended to sabotage you. Having failed to sabotage you, he was now resorting to sowing discord. However, you did not expose him, for you knew that speaking up now would be futile. Everyone simply wished to blast them from their meditation cushions so that they might take the seats for themselves. As for who incited it, they cared nothing for such details. Seeing that everyone was on the verge of attacking, you grew frantic. With such a massive crowd, you truly could not withstand the pressure. As for the prospect of waiting for Hong Jun to appear and intervene, you did not even dare to entertain the thought. What if he simply did not care for their lives? After all, everyone below the level of a saint is nothing more than an ant. Therefore, one must ultimately rely on oneself. With this realization, you take a deep breath, circulate your entire cultivation base, and roar at the top of your lungs. Tao Ancestor, save me! The thunderous sound echoes incessantly throughout the Zixiao Palace. The grand experts who were preparing to strike are instantly stunned, their eyelids twitching uncontrollably. That Chi fellow, you play a dirty game running to report this to the master. The grand experts curse inwardly, though they temporarily retract their magical treasures and aura. They dare not gamble, for if the saint were to truly appear, their fate would be sealed. Yet half an incense stick of time passes, and the saint does not appear. The grand experts heave a sigh of relief, their malicious intentions resurfacing as they cast predatory gazes toward those at the front, leaving the others in great tension. It seems there is no choice but to fight for one's life. Just as the grand experts are about to move Yuan Shi, one of the three pure ones suddenly looks toward Kunpeng and Yu, sneering, "Are those who wear fur and horns truly worthy of sitting alongside us? You should quickly yield your seats to other Taoists." As these words fall, the many experts who are about to strike freeze, their gazes shifting with bizarre curiosity between Yuan Shi and Yu. Yu and Kunpeng, is this an internal conflict brewing? If so, then do not blame them for wanting to sit atop the mountain and watch the tigers fight. Thinking of this, the grand experts slowly withdraw their aura, while your expression turns grim, casting a cold stare at Yuan Shi. There is neither previous grudge nor conflict of interest between you, yet he dares to target you. However, you do not immediately retaliate. With so many grand experts watching from the surroundings, you do not wish to let others reap the benefits. You do not wish to let others reap the benefits. But you will not indulge Yuan Shi either, so you turn your head to look at Kunpeng, whose face has turned a pale shade of green. Taoist, your actions are improper. Everyone in the Zixiao Palace is taken aback, then simultaneously shows looks of contempt. To be insulted and dare not retaliate is one thing, but to assist the aggressor in suppressing one's own kind is another. This is far too cowardly. Meanwhile, Kunpeng glares at you with a sinister expression. Taoist, what do you mean by this? Do you truly think I am so easily? The moment the Chaos Bell, a primordial supreme treasure, manifested, greed flared in the eyes of all present. Even the three pure ones were no exception. It was a primordial supreme treasure. Rumors had long circulated among the Wu clan that the Chaos Bell was in Taiyi's possession, yet others had never seen it with their own eyes. Now seeing it before them, their eyes turned bloodshot with jealousy. Only Hotu maintained a calm expression. The Wu and Demon clans had been at war for tens of thousands of years. She had long ago experienced the power of Taiyi's Chaos Bell. At this moment, Taiyi paid no heed to the greed radiating from the others. Bearing a primordial supreme treasure, he feared no one, save for the sages. He looked indifferently at Hong Yun and Zhen Yuanzi and spoke coldly. I have taken a liking to this seat. Witnessing Taiyi's cold and overbearing demeanor, the expressions of Hong Yun and Zhen Yuanzi became incredibly grim. They had only barely repelled his previous strike by combining their strength. Furthermore, judging by Taiyi's imposing aura, they were not certain they could withstand another assault unscathed. Yet, to simply surrender was impossible. Hong Yun was neither willing nor content. His nature was kind, but he was no fool. Even a simpleton would know this meditation cushion held a great secret. How could he hand it over just because of a single sentence? Exchanging a glance with Zhen Yuanzi, Hong Yun's figure flickered, revealing his true form, the very first red cloud of the primordial heaven and earth. His form was overflowing with Taoist essence, emitting an aura so powerful that his true strength surpassed that of most others present. This was not Hong Yun attempting to show off. It was because he truly lacked any spirit treasures to wield, leaving him no choice but to face his opponent with his own true form. Meanwhile, an ancient book radiating earthy yellow Taoist energy appeared in Zhen Yuanzi's hands, formed from the fetal membrane of heaven and earth. The Earth Book, a primordial spirit treasure capable of harnessing the power of the primordial earth, possessed a defensive might no weaker than a primordial supreme treasure. Seeing them refuse to yield, a flicker of ferocity flashed in Taiyi's eyes. The Chaos Bell trembled slightly, and a surge of Hong Huang energy surged directly toward the duo. Zhen Yuanzi cast the Earth Book from his hand, and it instantly manifested a barrier of light to shield both him and Hong Yun. Amidst a thunderous roar, the light barrier rippled, yet it quickly returned to a steady state. Taiyi narrowed his eyes. The cast bell above his head pulsed rhythmically, raining wave after wave of Hong Huang energy upon the barrier. With a grave gaze, Zhen Yuanzi formed seals with his hands, pouring continuous streams of Taoist law into the Earth Book. In an instant, the light barrier grew sturdier. Boom, boom, boom! A series of deafening collisions caused the barrier to shudder violently, gradually becoming translucent. Zhen Yuanzi's expression shifted. His hands moved faster to weave the seals, yet he could not keep pace with the rate at which the barrier was dissipating. This filled Zhen Yuanzi's heart with intense resentment. Had they not been within this void, but rather in the primordial world where he could draw upon the power of the earth, even if he could not emerge victorious, he would have remained invincible. At that very moment, a streak of red light pierced through the luminous veil, appearing instantly before Taiyi and manifesting into a crimson cloud that enveloped him completely. Taiyi was startled. He had underestimated his opponent's speed, for it was clear that Hong Yun had concealed his true capabilities during the earlier struggle for the prayer mats, yet Taiyi remained unafraid. The true sunfire erupted from within him. The scorching flames distorted the very fabric of the void, yet Hong Yun was entirely unaffected, instead tightening his hold with every passing second. Suddenly, the space around them trembled violently. Cracks appeared upon Taiyi's physical body in the blink of an eye. Space laws, Taiyi's expression shifted, as the chaos bell above his head expanded instantly, enveloping him within its protection. A dull resonance echoed, followed by a thunderous explosion. The crimson cloud shuddered violently, shrinking within a few breaths until it finally reverted into a humanoid form. Hong Yun's face was deathly pale, his aura dim as he struggled to endure the excruciating pain of having his body seemingly torn asunder. Hong Yun flashed backward to Zhen Yuanzi's side. As a golden light flickered in his eyes, Zhen Yuanzi's expression changed, and he hurried to steady the faltering Hong Yun. Brother, are you unharmed? Before Hong Yun could reply, he spat out a mouthful of fresh blood, his life force instantly wilting. Shen Yuanzi, startled, hurriedly produced a spiritual fruit radiating immense vitality and pressed it into Hong Yun's mouth, causing his aura to stabilize instantly. Not only that, but his pale complexion also regained a healthy glow. Watching from the sidelines, your eyes lit up. That was a ginseng fruit, truly deserving of its reputation as one of the 10 great primordial spiritual roots. The density of its life force was so profound that you could not help but swallow your saliva. Should the opportunity arise in the future, you must obtain a few to taste for yourself. Meanwhile, Tai retracted the chaos bell, revealing his form. Seeing the state of Tai, the other great masters fell into an immediate uproar. His face was covered in intricate cracks, resembling a porcelain doll that had been shattered and crudely repaired. Many of the great masters felt their hearts skip a beat at the sight. Although they did not know exactly what had transpired within Hong Yun's binding, the fact that even one wielding the innate supreme treasure, the Chaos Bell, like Tai, could be injured to such a degree, was evidence enough of Hong Yun's terrifying strength, especially considering that Hong Yun's cultivation realm was a tier below Tai's. Upon realizing this, everyone developed a deep sense of wariness toward this renowned good man of the primordial world. Even the most gentle soul becomes terrifying when pushed to the brink. Tai's expression was as dark as stagnant water, as a surge of Xuanwang energy radiated from the Chaos Bell onto his body, sealing the cracks on his face and restoring him to his former state in an instant. Though his complexion remained somewhat pale, Daijun's expression shifted. He darted to his brother's side, using a spiritual sense transmission to inquire anxiously if his primordial essence had been damaged. Tai shook his head, utilizing his own spiritual sense to warn his elder brother that they must exercise extreme caution regarding this Hong Yun. He is actually cultivating the laws of space. Dijun stared toward Hong Yun, his face etched with astonishment. Indeed, his command over the laws of space is not weak. I, Dijiang, was injured by him due to my own negligence, but as Tai spoke, he ceased his spiritual transmission, his voice now ringing out like a bronze bell. This position must belong to me. Upon finishing his words, the chaos bell above his head surged in size, becoming immense before plummeting toward the light barrier of Zhen Yuanzi's earth book. Brother Hong Yun, assist me. Zhen Yuanzi's expression paled as he let out a thunderous roar, the laws of earth manifesting around him and flooding into the light barrier in an instant. Hong Yun pressed his palms against Zhen Yuanzi's back, pouring his own dharmic power into him without reservation. Fortified by the power of the laws, the earth book's light barrier became incredibly dense. The laws of earth permeated the surface, thick with the weight of ancient majesty. Boom! With a deafening explosion, the light barrier was instantly cracked by the impact of the chaos bell. Yet in the blink of an eye, it was mended by the power of the laws. Tearing and repairing, the cycle continued. Witnessing this scene, a cruel glint flashed in Tai's eyes. He moved, instantly appearing beside the chaos bell. With a resonant toll, the great bell unleashed a surge of violent, ferocious power that slammed into the light barrier. The barrier twisted and shuddered violently, holding for a mere 3 breaths before shattering into fragments with a thunderous crash. With a flash of light, the earth book transformed into a streak of yellow radiance, merging back into Zhen Yuanzi's body. Zhen Yuanzi and Hong Yun both vomited blood thrown backward by the overwhelming force of the impact. The meditation cushion lay vacant. The eyes of the surrounding great powers glinted with desire, yet as Tai stepped onto the cushion, their gazes grew guarded once more. This one is even less of a person to be trifled with. Look at Hong Yun. Having been struck from his cushion by Tai Yi, Zhen Yuanzi's expression shifted, but ultimately he chose not to retaliate. He was not confident he could deal with Tai Yi. Even if the 3 of them joined forces to defeat him, it would be a Pyrrhic victory. With other great powers watching like predators, the Oriole would surely snatch the prize behind the Mantis, and he would lose his chance at the Saint's throne altogether. As for why he sought to befriend these 2, it was primarily to plan for the future, fearing that without allies in the primordial world, without support in the primordial world, his fate might be grim, as he was not yet strong enough to suppress all under heaven through force alone, and the brothers of the 3 pure ones cling together, as do the 12 ancestral witches. Even Dijun and Tai Yi remain inseparable. In the end, even Kunpeng joined the demon court. Only those without affiliation can stand against the sole path of the primordial. Therefore, he did not wish for future strife. He preferred not to be isolated and alone when the time came to contend for treasures. Unless it is the primordial era, it is always better to be cautious. Moreover, he had already made many enemies. By offending Junti, Jian, and Yuan Shi, he had effectively antagonized the 3 pure ones. Although he possessed those 2 favors, he did not truly believe that when the day came for a life-or-death struggle against Yuan Shi, such trivial debts would compel Tai Ching and Tong Tian to stand idly by. Just as your thoughts were drifting, Tai Yi, seemingly unsatisfied after seizing his position, suddenly turned his gaze toward you, his intent to contend for yours undisguised. You were startled. Was he attempting to seize your seat of sainthood? In an instant you bristled, your inner rage boiling over. Very well, he did not wish to offend others. Yet others dared to perceive him as an easy target. You gripped your golden staff, your aura surging and a fierce light erupting in your eyes. This position of yours, my brothers, and I shall take. Your momentum faltered as you paused. You followed Tai Yi's gaze, turning to see the bewildered Kunpeng standing to the side. It was not intended for you. You scratched your head, feeling somewhat embarrassed. It had indeed been a grave understanding, But since he intended to take it from Kunpeng, you decided to see how this would unfold. Meanwhile, the resentment in Kunpeng's heart mirrored your own just moments ago. Did everyone truly believe he was so easily bullied? Every newcomer sought to usurp his position. Treating him like a sick cat, Kunpeng erupted in fury. He summoned the North Darkness Palace, unleashing his full aura. The law of water manifested a vast, frigid, and ghostly. You wish to take my position? Taiyi narrowed his eyes, the chaos bell appearing directly in his hand, while Dijin manifested the top-grade Xiantian spiritual treasure, the Hetu Luoshu. The top-grade Xiantian spiritual treasure, the Hetu Luoshu. Just as the three were about to clash, an ethereal voice echoed once more. Seize them together. What do you think? The saint was nearly upon them, yet no one paid any heed, for they had already wasted far too much time. If they did not act quickly, the saint would truly arrive. The eyes of many grand masters began to flicker with determination. This time, Taiyi and Kunpeng ceased their bickering, immediately standing on guard. The others who had already secured their positions did the same, while you let out a long sigh, feeling a headache coming on. Why was merely seizing a seat of sainthood so difficult? Then, to the bewilderment of all present, you stretched your neck and roared at the top of your lungs, "Ancestor of Tao, save me!" This time, not only did the Grand Masters vying for the seats look on, but even those who had already secured them, such as the three Pure Ones in Nua, cast strange, questioning glances in your direction. Is this becoming an addiction? Yet the events just now proved that the saints would not intervene. To continue acting this way was to treat them all like fools. At this thought, the gazes of the many great cultivators turned instantly hostile. Seeing that Hong Jun still had not appeared after a long while, your mind stirred. You truly had to stake everything on this. Just as the great battle was about to erupt, a terrifying pressure suddenly descended. Even the spirit treasures that had been summoned were forced directly back into their owners' bodies. This was the Saint's might. Your heart surged with wild joy. It had finally arrived. Those who had managed to seize the seats also breathed a sigh of relief. The situation just now was too dangerous. Even though their strength was not insignificant, 9 people facing nearly 3,000 great cultivators, to not retreat was already their limit. If they had truly clashed under the combined assault of 3,000 experts, they would have been reduced to dust. High sitting on the 9-layered clouds, the futon records the great Tao, outside the heaven and earth, mysterious and yellow. The futon records the great Tao, outside the heaven and earth, mysterious and yellow. I am the leader of the sect honoring Pangu and creating the Taiji. The 2 modes and 4 symbols trace the path of the profound gate. Following the resonating sounds of the great Tao, an immense expanse of auspicious clouds appeared before everyone. In the void, 5-colored radiance saturated the heavens, and the celestial music of the 8 sounds echoed throughout the universe before transforming into a cloud dais. An elder with the appearance of an immortal appeared upon the dais without warning, as if he could comprehend all things in existence. Startled, everyone hurried to bow their heads in obeisance to the Saint Hongjun. There is no need for such formalities. Hongjun sat cross-legged in the void, glancing indifferently at the crowd. However, when his gaze fell upon you, his brows twitched twice. You felt a tremor in your heart. You certainly did not wish to keep begging for your life. But there was no other way. These people disregarded martial honor and sought to gang up on you alone. Fortunately, Hongjun said nothing and simply waved his hand, closing the doors of the Zixiao Palace. 100 years passed, and everyone hurried to take their seats, though Hongyun and another had swapped positions, while Junti and Jayan wore expressions of struggle and bitterness. You looked at them with curiosity. Why were they being so rigid? Then you looked toward Hongjun, wondering how the saint would react. Yet Hongjun did not pay them any mind at all. That you could arrive at Zixiao Palace means you all have affinity with me. Each lecture will last 3,000 years, held every 1,000 years. The positions of the front row are now fixed, and in the future you shall listen to the Tao from these spots. No changes are permitted. Hearing this, those sitting on the first row of futons were instantly overjoyed. In the future, they would no longer need to worry about the seats being contested. Naturally, those who had failed to secure a seat were utterly dejected. They had been planning to contest them again during the next lecture. Moreover, judging by the saint's implication, this first row of cushions contains profound mysteries. Hongjun's expression remained as calm as still water. He paid no mind to the thoughts of the gathered crowd and began to expound upon the great Tao himself. This time he spoke of the Tao of the Luo Golden Immortal. There is an entity formed from chaos, existing before heaven and earth, silent and desolate. It stands alone and unchanging, operating without cease. I do not know its name, so I designate it as the Tao. Seeing the saint begin his sermon, Junti Jayan, who were still standing, saw their expressions shift instantly. They no longer had the luxury to dwell on whether or not they had seats, and hurriedly sat cross-legged to meditate and listen to the Tao. But before you could enter a state of deep meditation, you had already slipped into a trance and were completely unaware of what transpired. As Hongjun continued his lecture, the Zixiao Palace was instantly flooded with the aura of the Tao. The laws of heaven manifested and miraculous visions emerged in succession. You realized that the Tao Hongjun was preaching was far more shallow than the great Tao that manifested between heaven and earth earlier, yet it was far more detailed, providing immense benefit to the cultivation of his current realm. The Tao of Daluo requires the refinement of essence, qi, and spirit to achieve the 3 flowers. These are the 3 flowers of heaven, earth, and man, each categorized into 9 grades. Only when the three flowers bloom in unison is the Daluo path attained. Beyond the three flowers, there are also the 5 Qis. Cultivation knows no passage of time. In the blink of an eye, 3,000 years had passed. The thousands of powerful beings within Zixiao Palace were all mesmerized as if enchanted. They were completely immersed in their enlightenment of the Tao. During these 3,000 years, cultivators would occasionally achieve a breakthrough, only to immediately resume listening and contemplating the Tao. The heart stores the spirit, the liver stores the soul, the spleen stores the intention, the lungs store the po, the kidneys store the essence, the 5 Qis gather at the crown. When the 3s and the 5 converge, the Daluo Tao is perfected. While lecturing, Hongjun suddenly paused, observing the crowd still lost in their enlightenment, their faces filled with blissful obsession. Hongjun did not awaken them, nor did he depart. Instead, he closed his eyes and allowed his spirit to roam beyond the heavens. 300 years later, the group began to awaken one by one from their deep meditation. They looked upon the 2 9-petaled golden. Thrilled beyond measure, he had reached the mid-stage of the great Luo Golden Immortal realm. Regarding the 3 flowers of heaven, earth, and man, both his human flower and earth flower had blossomed into the 9th grade. This was unequivocally a foundation of supreme talent. At this moment, he could not help but be curious. He wondered what grade the 3 flowers of others had attained. Especially the 3 pure ones of the primordial era, they were said to possess the strongest foundations. He reckoned they must have also reached the 9th grade. However, he could only speculate, for such secrets concerning one's own strength were never disclosed to others. Seeing that the crowd had regained consciousness, Hongjun slowly opened his eyes. This discourse on the Tao of the Great Luo concludes here. In 7,000 years I shall lecture on the Tao of the Quasi-Saint. Those who have affairs to attend to may depart. Having spoken, he closed his eyes once more to traverse the spirit realm. The attendees exchanged glances, yet not a single soul departed. 700 years spent traversing the chaos and the primordial realm left little time to spare. Only Taiyi and Dijun exchanged a brief moment of telepathic communication. Then Taiyi rose, bowed respectfully to Hongjun, and turned to leave. Haotu watched as Taiyi departed. She knew Tai was anxious about the ancestral witches. He feared they would seize the opportunity to attack the demon clan, but Taiyi was overthinking. Within the entire demon clan, the only beings the 12 ancestral witches deemed true enemies were Dijun and Taiyi themselves. As for the minor demons under their command, they did not even deign to lift a finger against them. With that thought, Hutu closed her eyes once more to continue her cultivation. The other ancestral witches lacked primordial spirits, but Hutu was the exception. Deep within her soul lay fragments of a primordial spirit, which was why she had sought out this lecture from the sage. 6,000 years later, Taiyi returned. The crowd merely cast a fleeting glance before resuming their meditation on the Tao. Although not as effective as when the sage was actively preaching, the spiritual energy within the Zixiao Palace remained denser than any blessed land in the primordial world, and none wished to waste it. 100 years passed in the blink of an eye. When Hongjun opened his eyes once more, the spirits of the crowd were stirred. The second lecture had begun. Beyond the great Luo lies the Hong Huang Golden Immortal, but as the primordial world evolved and the heavenly Tao stood firm, the Hong Huang realm became difficult to achieve without cultivating the path of the quasi-saint. This lecture concerned the method of severing the 3 courses to reach the quasi-saint realm. The method of severing the 3 courses was Hongjun's own unique creation. His eyes shone with brilliance, though he also possessed the heritage of the chaos demon ape, the 9-turn demon god art. Although he held the cultivation method for the Hong Huang Golden Immortal, the primordial chaos had shattered and the great Tao was incomplete. Attempting that path was fundamentally impossible. Therefore, this method of severing the 3 courses was the most viable path. One must sever the 3 courses, good, evil, and the self, and entrust them into innate spiritual treasures. As Hongjun's sermon continued, the crowd once again fell into a state of enlightenment. Only the content of this lecture was somewhat profound, and the attendees found it quite taxing to comprehend. 3,000 years passed in the blink of an eye. Hongjun had finished expounding the Tao of the quasi-sage. However, the time it took for the cultivators to awaken was unusually long this time. It was not until just before the 3rd lecture began that they regained their senses. To hear the Tao in the morning, one could die without regrets in the evening. He lamented inwardly that 3,000 years had vanished in a fleeting moment. Sensing the dharmic power within his body and realizing the heavenly flower had yet to bloom within his primordial spirit, he could not help but frown. His strength had not progressed significantly this time. He remained in the middle stage of the Daluo Golden Immortal realm without a breakthrough. It appears that the further one progresses, the more difficult cultivation becomes. It seems the further one advances, the more arduous the path of cultivation becomes. The rate of improvement is also slowing down considerably. Probing the other great powers within the Zixiao Palace, most were at the same cultivation level as he was, with a few still at the early stage of the Daluo realm. But when he sensed the aura of 4 individuals, Taiching, Fushi, Taiyi, and Jian, his heart skipped a beat. Late-stage Daluo Golden Immortals, their 3 flowers had already blossomed. If they only cultivate further until the 5 internal energies converge at the crown, they may achieve the peak of the Daluo Golden Immortal realm. It seems I am still a step behind them. Yet he did not lose heart. A lower cultivation level does not equate to inferior combat prowess. Furthermore, his own heavenly flower was on the verge of blooming. This 3rd time was to be the final lecture, the Tao of becoming a sage. At this moment, Hongjun suddenly spoke, causing golden light to erupt in the eyes of the 3,000 great powers. It caused a burst of golden light to ignite within the eyes of the 3,000 great powers. Ever since Hongjun attained sainthood, the concept of a sage has loomed large. All living beings of the primordial world had sensed the majesty of the sage, understanding clearly that beneath the sage all are but grass and dust. Consequently, attaining sainthood became the ultimate goal pursued by every living being in the primordial world. Now that they finally had hope of becoming sages, how could they not be ecstatic? Thus everyone bowed respectfully. The merciful teacher, however, paid no mind to their overwhelming excitement. Hongjun personally began to expound upon the Tao of the sages. The crowd suppressed their frantic hearts and settled their minds to listen. This time, the Tao of the sages was profoundly obscure and difficult to grasp, and the vast majority of the listeners were left in a state of confusion. It felt as if they understood, yet remained ignorant. Only a few revealed expressions of deep contemplation. 2,900 years later, Hongjun ceased his lecture, his aura ethereal, as if he had almost merged with the Tao itself. Witnessing this scene, you realize that Hongjun's nearing the point of becoming one with the Tao. The lecture on the path to sainthood is complete. You have 100 years remaining to fulfill the 3,000-year term. If you have any questions, I shall answer them all at once. May I ask, Master, what is a sage? Taiching bowed and inquired. The primordial spirit of a sage is Ji entrusted to the void, immortal and indestructible. It is also known as a Hunyuan Dalu Jingxian. However, a sage is indeed a Hunyuan Daluo Jingxian, but a Hunyuan Daluo Jingxian is not necessarily a sage. A Hunyuan Daluo Jingxian. Taiching and the others heard this, all displaying expressions of bewilderment. Hongjun swept his gaze across the crowd and shook his head. The chaos has shattered, and the great Tao is incomplete. The age of the Hunyuan Daluo Jingxian has become a thing of the past. It is enough for you to know this. There is no need to delve deeper. Are there any other questions? Taiching shook his head, and the others remained silent. Seeing this, Hongjun paused for a moment before speaking slowly. The Tao of heaven and earth, 9 is the ultimate number, and 1 is the variable. The moment these words were spoken, you immediately became agitated. The time to distribute the positions of the sages had finally arrived. Since he had secured a prayer mat, he would surely claim one of these positions of the primordial sages. The other great experts were filled with both joy and trepidation. They were joyful because they too had a chance to achieve sainthood. 1431, there is no content to translate, but there were only 7 positions of the sages. 7 positions. As if realizing something, the crowd suddenly froze and collectively turned their eyes toward the 7 prayer mats in the front row. 7 positions, 7 mats. Could it be that this was the hidden opportunity within the prayer mats? Upon grasping this, those seated on the mats were overcome with delirious joy, while the other great experts regretted it so deeply they wanted to plunge into the chaos and end their lives. They had guessed there was a mystery to the 7 mats, but they never imagined they represented the positions of sages. Had they known, they would have risked their lives to seize one. Naturally, the most aggrieved among them was Hong Yun. His usual expression of benevolence and kindness had vanished entirely. Though he was a man of virtue when it came to the position of a sage, therefore the gaze he fixed upon Taiyi at this moment was so full of hatred he could have devoured him alive. He seethed with resentment. He hated Taiyi for seizing his throne of holiness, but he hated himself even more for his lack of strength, having obtained it only to fail to keep it. Observing the shifting hues of Hong Yun's complexion, Chen Yuanzi patted his shoulder in sympathy, wishing to offer comfort but finding no words to express it. The destiny of sainthood, to possess it and then lose it, what soul could endure such agony? Naturally, it was not only Hong Yun who found this unbearable, Zunti could not accept it either. It seemed that the thrones of holiness were destined to have no place for the 2 brothers. In his desperation, Zunti blurted out, "Teacher, should there not be 8 remaining?" Hearing Zunti's query, the eyes of the others brightened with anticipation as they turned toward Hongjun. Indeed, if 1 were subtracted from 9, there remained 1. Perhaps they still held a chance. However, Hongjun's next words shattered their hopes. The great Tao is 50, the heaven's evolution is 49. The great Tao is 50, the heaven's evolution is 49. 1 path escapes, leaving behind an infinite variety of changes and a singular glimmer of hope for survival. 9 is the extreme number of the heavenly Tao, and 1 is the variable. I have already claimed 1 position, so under my tutelage, there are only 7 thrones of holiness. Zunti's expression turned incomparably grim. He stared at the 7 prayer mats in the front row. Regret gnawed at his heart. Had he known, he would have cast aside even more of his dignity. He would have wept more bitterly. Perhaps then, someone might have yielded their seat? Clinging to a final shred of hope, Zunti asked, "Dare I ask, teacher, who is fated to become a saint?" This question caused the hearts of all present to leap into their throats. Even those who had secured the prayer mats, such as the San Xing, were no exception. That the 7 upon the mats would become saints was merely everyone's conjecture, yet only in his heart was the conviction as firm as a monolith. There were too many myths of the primordial era. The prayer mat was synonymous with the Hong Huang purple chi, synonymous with the throne of holiness. He was certain he could attain sainthood. At this moment, under the collective gaze of all, Hongjun flipped his palm, revealing 7 wisps of purple energy brimming with the resonance of the Tao. This is the Hong Huang purple chi, the prerequisite for attaining the status of a saint. Subsequently, under the burning gazes of the crowd, Hongjun first looked toward the Sanqing below. noting the immense merits of Pangu in creating the world. The Xiantian are formed from the primordial spirit of Pangu. They carry the merits of creation and possess great fortune. They are worthy of being my disciples and shall become saints. With those words, 3 wisps of Hong Huang purple qi flew from Hong Jun's hand, merging into the bodies of the Sanqing. We thank you, Master. Overjoyed, the Sanqing hurriedly bowed in gratitude. The others were consumed with envy and jealousy. They cast a glance at the 3, then looked toward Hong Jun with bated breath. Nua shall possess great merit and great fortune in the future. As my last disciple, she shall become a saint. A wisp of Hong Huang purple qi entered Nua's body. I thank you, Master. Nua's beautiful face was filled with joy, and she looked toward Fuxi with excitement. Senior brother, thank you. She knew well that her strength among these great powers was insignificant. It was only because Fuxi stood behind her that she could secure a position of sainthood. Congratulations, junior sister. Fuxi gently stroked Nua's hair, his eyes devoid of even a trace of jealousy. Yet within his heart, there was a sense of profound lament. The little girl who used to follow closely at his heels was soon to become a supreme saint, and he would no longer be able to ruffle her hair so casually. Seeing that Nua had also been granted the primordial violet qi, the remaining individuals on the meditation cushions grew visibly invigorated, confirming that the positions of sainthood were indeed tied to these cushions, while the great powers who failed to secure a seat wore expressions of utter despair. It was a truly tragic and heart-wrenching sight. Witnessing this scene, Kunpeng immediately showed his disdain. Those who failed to win a seat were now resorting to such base tactics to manipulate the situation, a conduct he held in utter contempt. You also shook your head. If weeping were truly effective, why would he have exerted such effort to fight for a seat in the first place? Jian and Junti, though you lack great merit, you shall later enlighten all living beings. You are worthy of becoming my nominal disciples and shall eventually attain sainthood. The crowd broke into an uproar of astonishment while you, Kunpeng, and Tai stood with mouths agape, unable to believe what your ears had just heard. Thank you, Master. Zanti was overcome with wild joy. Neither of them had expected such a turn of events, and they were so agitated that their faces flushed crimson. Zunti even cast a smug glance in your direction. So what if you secured a seat? They could still attain sainthood without one, but as for you, that is far from certain. Thinking this, a thought flickered through Junti's mind. If you possess the primordial violet qi, so be it, but if you do not, a murderous intent flashed deep within his eyes before vanishing. Yet at this moment, you were unaware of Junti's treacherous thoughts, nor did you have the temperament to care. You only knew that your own position of sainthood was now hanging in the balance. You truly had not expected Hong Jun to deviate so drastically from the established rules. 2 strands of primordial violet qi had already been bestowed upon Jayan and Junti. So, what of the others? What was the purpose of laying out these 7 meditation cushions? Was this all merely a cruel jest? The novels of my past life have deceived me yet again. Who was it that claimed securing a meditation cushion would guarantee the primordial violet qi? Your inner indignation remained carefully hidden from view. You lacked the strength to challenge a saint. After all, it is no mere jest that all those below the rank of saint are but blades of grass. Reflecting on this, you gaze directly at Hong Jun, noting that the final strand of Hong Huang purple qi remains in his possession. Yet deep down, he truly lacks even a shred of confidence. The novels of his previous life were indeed a massive trap, and both Kunpeng and Tai watched that final strand of Hong Huang purple qi with eyes full of hope. The other great powers are the same, their spirits visibly invigorated. It turns out that Master Hong Jun is not actually bestowing positions based on the prayer mats, therefore they all still harbor hope. However slim, it is better than nothing at all. Hong Jun pays no mind to the gazes of the crowd, looking directly toward Hong Yun instead. Hong Yun, you were the first cloud to form at the creation of heaven and earth, manifesting after fusing with a strand of primordial merit. You possess great virtue and are worthy of becoming my nominal disciple, with the potential to attain sainthood. Having finished, the final strand of Hong purple qi descends into the body of the bewildered Hong Yun. Hong Yun immediately snaps to his senses. The sheer joy of regaining what he thought was lost compels him to bow deeply. Many thanks, Master. Hong Jun nods, saying nothing further. Seeing that all the Hong Huang purple qi have been claimed, the others are instantly overcome with immense disappointment. Their eyes filled with envy and jealousy as they look toward the 7 who succeeded, some even harboring sinister gleams in their eyes. You, despite having foreseen this, cannot suppress a wave of frustration and gloom. Is there truly no hope left? Taking a deep breath, you steady your emotions, then cast a surreptitious glance toward Jayan. If the Tao ancestor will not bestow it upon Junti, then he has no choice but to seize this primordial saint position from the hands of another. He must secure one, and as for why he does not target Hong Yun, it is because there is no prior grudge, and too many others are already fixated on him, making the difficulty far higher. Of course, if he fails to seize one from Jayan and Junti, he might just have to involve himself in Hong Yun's affairs. After all, he is no saintly benevolent person. As for the 3 pure ones in Nua, the difficulty is too great, though the rewards are equally massive. It is certainly not a fear of karma. Since he has already decided to seize a saint position, he does not fear the karmic consequences. He only calculates based on difficulty. Nua and the 3 pure ones must be left for last. Furthermore, there is no psychological barrier to robbing Jayan and Junti, as these 2 will surely defect from the Eastern Xuanmen in the future. Him seizing it now is merely acting on behalf of the heavens. Meanwhile, those like Kunpeng and Tai are so stifled they are nearly vomiting blood. The seats were successfully stolen, yet when it comes to the sainthood, there is no share for them. But they dare not harbor resentment toward the Tao ancestor Hongjun, for first, they lack sufficient strength, and thus their gazes shifted toward the others who had received a strand of Hongmeng Ziki. Yet their focus remained fixated above all else upon Hongyun. It was not just the three of them, the other great powers felt the same. Their eyes flickered as they observed those who had been granted the Hongmeng Ziqi. This caused those like San Qing, who had received the Hongmeng Ziqi, to feel a tightening in their chests. They remained secretly on guard, perhaps sensing the strange and ominous atmosphere within Zixiao Palace. At that moment, Hongjun turned his hand, and to everyone's astonishment, another strand of Hongmeng Ziki appeared. The crowd was first stunned, and then their eyes burned with such intensity that they practically glowed. They gazed imploringly toward Hongjun, hoping for the master's compassion. However, Hongjun did not bestow it upon anyone, sighing instead as he spoke. This is the variable, the one that had escaped. It shall remain hidden within the heavens and earth. In the future, when the heavenly Tao is perfected, should someone find it, they may achieve sainthood. However, the karmic opportunity has yet to arrive. To force its acquisition will only invite the world-extinguishing heavenly tribulation. To give it to you now would be to lead you to your destruction. The world-extinguishing heavenly tribulation? Everyone shuddered, their faces pale with terror. The frenzied obsession in their eyes vanished in an instant. Hongjun then released his grip, and the strand of Hongmeng Ziqi soared toward the vault of Zixiao Palace, growing increasingly faint until it began to fade from sight. Watching the Hongmeng Ziqi vanish, the great powers felt unwilling to let it go, yet none dared to snatch it. To do so would invite the world-extinguishing heavenly tribulation, a force none could hope to withstand. In the past, there were those who refused to believe the warnings, but in the end they were reduced to ash by the world-extinguishing heavenly tribulation, their souls completely obliterated. Yet at that very moment, under the shocked gazes of the crowd, a figure suddenly surged into the sky. In a heartbeat, he appeared beside the Hongmeng Ziki. As he grasped the Hongmeng Ziki with one hand, a blinding purple radiance instantly erupted. It enveloped the figure entirely. Soon after, a strike capable of shattering one's very soul, a massive world-destroying bolt of thunder, ignored the barriers of Zixiao Palace and struck violently into the purple light. The deafening explosion silenced the heavens and earth. Followed by a piercing, agonizing scream, the stunned onlookers immediately wore expressions of gloating mockery. To have the audacity to snatch an item from the heavenly Tao under the gaze of the world-extinguishing lightning, he was truly courting death. As the lightning and the purple light slowly dissipated, a charred, blackened corpse drifted in midair. He had perished just as expected. Yet, a moment later, the lifeless body suddenly shuddered, and under the astonished stares of the crowd, it stood up and slowly exhaled a puff of black smoke. The great powers were instantly in an uproar, their faces filled with utter disbelief. To think that someone had survived the world-extinguishing heavenly tribulation, even if it was only a single strike, everyone present was certain that they themselves would never have survived such terrifying might. However, when they saw the strand of Hongmeng Ziqi still glowing with purple light in the black-clad figure's hand, they immediately cast thoughts of the tribulation to the back of their minds. Did he actually succeed in seizing it? Instantly, everyone was consumed by a feverish, insatiable greed. However, this is the Zixiao Palace. None of them possessed the audacity to commit robbery in the presence of a saint. Furthermore, the one who seized this primordial violet chi is not easily provoked, especially after surviving the world-destroying lightning tribulation, which has only deepened their apprehension and wariness. Consequently, everyone simultaneously turns their gaze toward Tao ancestor Hongjun, hoping he will reclaim the primordial violet chi. After all, if they cannot possess it, they would prefer that no one else can either. At this moment, Hongjun, seated in meditation upon the cloud bed, is secretly astonished. He never expected anyone to be bold enough to defy the heavenly punishment and successfully seize the treasure. Looking at your charcoal black body, with smoke still rising from your head, Hongjun suddenly feels an inexplicable urge to laugh. He cannot recall how many tens of thousands of years it has been since he witnessed something this intriguing. Moreover, when the world-destroying lightning tribulation descended just now, he vaguely sensed another aura flicker by and vanish. Although it was fleeting, he definitely felt it, and it even carried a sense of familiarity. As the power of the heavenly Tao manifests in his eyes, in the next instant, Tao ancestor Hongjun appears deep in thought. It is indeed an acquaintance. What a pity that they still could not withstand the heavenly punishment, yet he himself remains wise for having chosen to integrate with it. Seeing Hongjun observing you with an expressionless face, your eyelids twitch, and you quickly draw the primordial violet chi into your primordial spirit, then descend to the ground, scratching at your charred, smoking hair. I won this through my own ability. As soon as you speak, that figure, blackened by the lightning tribulation, suddenly reveals 2 rows of bright white teeth, creating an immensely comical sight. Senior brother, he is so black. Suddenly, a clear and melodious voice rings out, causing everyone to freeze in unison, their shoulders unable to stop trembling with suppressed laughter. Your brows twitch repeatedly, and you cannot help but look toward the one who spoke. But a moment later, you are stunned. Looking at the curiosity on her delicate face and the purity in her eyes, you are struck with surprise. Is this truly the future saint of the human race, Nua? How could Nua feel so naive and adorable? Junior sister, do not be rude. At this moment, Fuxi glares at Nua, who immediately sticks out her tongue in a playful gesture. Fuxi looks at you with a helpless, apologetic expression. Taoist friend, please do not blame my junior sister. She simply enjoys speaking the truth. She bears no ill will. You remain silent. These two siblings are somewhat peculiar, so you simply decide to ignore them and look toward Hongjun once more, asking tentatively, Teacher, you will not seize the primordial violet chi from me, will you? The muscles in Hongjun's face twitch, but he quickly restores his look of indifference. Having endured the heavenly tribulation, this is your own providence. Whether you can become a saint in the future depends entirely on your own capabilities. As soon as these words are spoken, the other great powerhouses immediately reveal expressions of disappointment, yet they dare not say a word. After all, the actions of a saint do not require them to offer their opinions. As you see that Hongjun has no intention of reclaiming the primordial violet chi, the heart that was hanging in your throat finally settles, and you hurriedly bow in gratitude. Many thanks, teacher. As a person from a later generation, respecting one's teacher and the Tao is a virtue. So long as the master does not fail him, he will never be ungrateful. Betraying his master and sect is a serious matter. Yet if Hongjun truly demanded he surrender the primordial violet chi, he would undoubtedly comply. He possesses neither the intent to betray his master nor the strength to do so. However, without receiving the 18 heavenly supreme treasures in exchange, he would certainly refuse. After all, he had already been struck by lightning. The moment the heavenly tribulation descended upon him, he was struck with instant regret, for he could sense that he was fundamentally incapable of withstanding it. But just as he fell into despair, a colossal phantom of an ape emerged from his Rui Jin Gu Bang, that is the divine weapon of the Chaos Demon Ape. Then, before his very eyes, it was reduced to dust by the heavenly tribulation. The heavenly tribulation itself was mostly dissipated by the impact, leaving him scorched black and suffering injuries that were neither fatal nor minor. Yet he felt no gratitude toward that phantom. On the contrary, he felt only terror and hostility. For the moment that demonic ape phantom was shattered, he perceived a thick malice and resentment in its eyes. It had truly sought to kill him. He did not know what it was exactly. Could it be the lingering divine consciousness of the Chaos Demon Ape? He knew that some powerful beings, even after death, could preserve a fragment of their consciousness to possess a body and be reborn. If that were truly the case, then the world-destroying heavenly tribulation had, in a roundabout way, saved his life. From the sensation he felt moments ago, he clearly realized he was far from being a match for that entity. When the time came while he was off guard, possessing his body would have been as easy as turning over one's hand. Thinking of this, he could not help but feel a surge of fortune. He had inadvertently resolved a hidden crisis, and his desire to attain sainthood grew even more fervent. Without attaining sainthood, one remains a mere ant in the end. However, looking at the primordial violet chi within his primordial spirit, he could not help but grin. This tribulation was not suffered in vain. There is finally hope of achieving sainthood. Although Tao ancestor Hongjun stated that one must wait for the heavenly Tao to reach completion before the final person can attain sainthood, this strand of primordial violet chi in his possession is the one that escaped, creating countless variables. Thus, who will ultimately be the final one to attain sainthood is far from certain. Reflecting on this, he secretly decided that upon returning to Huagua Mountain, he must plan his future path with the utmost care. Very well, the distribution of the primordial violet chi ends here. At this moment, Tao ancestor Hongjun suddenly spoke. The great powers who failed to obtain the primordial violet chi, though unwilling to accept it, had no other choice. After all, who told? Kunpeng and Taiyi gazed at you, their bodies still charred and blackened. Their expressions were a complex mix of envy and reverence. Moments ago, they had harbored thoughts of plundering you, but these were merely fleeting impulses. They lacked the courage to actually carry them out. As it stood among the 7 who occupied the meditation cushions, only they two remained without a strand of Hong Huang purple chi. Thinking of this, their faces flushed with heat and their minds began to churn with opportunistic schemes. The lecture is concluded and the positions of the saints are ordained. The lecture is concluded and the positions of the saints are ordained. I shall now merge my form with the heavenly Tao. From this day forth, Hongjun is the heavenly Tao, but the heavenly Tao is not Hongjun. I shall not manifest again, unless the heavens face a great calamity. Everyone was struck with astonishment, yet beneath their shock, secret joy began to bloom. With Hongjun merging with the Tao, there would be no saints in the prehistoric world for a long time to come. For them, this was a boon, though they all wore masks of feigned sorrow and reluctance. Master, please reconsider. Hongjun saw through them all, his heart as still as an ancient pond, utterly devoid of ripples or emotional disturbance. In a past life, he was a chaos demon god. His emotions were cold and distant. Every action now was merely to serve the grand design of the heavenly Tao of the primordial world. Merging with the Tao was for him simply a method of cultivation. I am about to merge with the Tao. The Dharma treasures I have accumulated no longer hold use for me. I shall bestow them upon you now. As Hongjun spoke, the crowd erupted in excitement, especially those who lacked spirit treasures. They were overcome with sheer delight. How could a Dharma treasure deemed worthy by a saint be anything less than extraordinary? Many thanks, Master. As for you, your expression remained calm. You knew this distribution did not concern you, as it was reserved for the 7 official disciples of the Tao ancestor. Although you had received a strand of Hong Huang purple chi, Hongjun had not accepted you as an official disciple, and reflecting on this, you knew there would be nothing for you in this exchange. so you shifted your focus toward the treasure-distributing cliff behind him. There, countless powerful spirit treasures waited for you to claim them. Hongjun looked calmly toward Taiching. You are my eldest disciple, one of the manifestations of Pengu's primordial spirit. This innate supreme treasure, the Taiji diagram, has an affinity with you. You may use it for your protection. As the words fell, an ancient scroll radiating the profound aura of yin and yang appeared directly before Taiching. Gazing at the Taiji diagram, even the usually detached and serene Taiching could not hide his jubilation. This was an innate supreme treasure. Having previously envied Taiyi's chaos bell, he finally possessed a treasure of his own. Many thanks, master. The others watched as Taiching accepted the Taiji diagram, their faces twisted with envy and jealousy. Even you, who had anticipated this, licked your lips and gently stroked your golden cudgel. Your mind swirled with intense resolve. It seemed you must find the other 3 fragments severed by Pengu's axe as soon as possible, so that your golden cudgel might also ascend to the rank of an innate supreme treasure. Otherwise, you would be at a disadvantage in future confrontations. Yuanqi, you are my second disciple, one of the manifestations of Pengu's primordial spirit. This innate supreme treasure, the Pengu banner, has an affinity with you. May it help you stabilize your fortune. Many thanks, Master, Yuanqi exclaimed in a frenzy of joy. He never expected that he too would receive a primordial supreme treasure, and unable to contain his impatience, he hastily reached out to claim the Pengu banner. The crowd was once again consumed by envy, and their gazes toward Hongjun grew even more fervent. At this moment, Hongjun turned his gaze toward Tongchen, leaving Tongchen instantly caught between exhilaration and anxiety. Both of his senior martial brothers had received primordial supreme treasures. Surely his gift would be no less significant? Paying no mind to his inner thoughts, Hongjun waved his hand, and 4 swords accompanied by a scroll appeared before him, radiating a bone-chilling killing intent. Your temperament favors slaughter and the path of the sword. These are the 4 immortal slaying swords. Together with the formation scroll, they form the immortal slaying sword formation, which cannot be broken unless 4 sages act in unison. As these words fell, Tongchen was overcome with joy. Even Taiching was struck with shock, not to mention Yuanqi, in whose eyes a flicker of jealousy emerged. If it cannot be broken without 4 sages, does that not mean that even he would be no match for it? If Taiching, the senior martial brother, surpassed him, it would be acceptable. But if Tongchen were to hold power above him as well, would that not make Yuanqi the weakest among the 3 purities? Tongchen, lost in the depths of his joy, remained entirely oblivious to Yuanqi's unsettling gaze. The other great powers looked upon Tongchen with profound trepidation, inwardly resolving that they must never offend him. This immortal slaying sword formation is simply too heaven-defying. Aside from the Dao ancestor Hongjun, even when everyone else eventually achieves sainthood, it is unlikely that they would be able to break such a formation. After all, the 3 purities were originally one entity. Even if they were to join forces, they would still not be able to overcome it. You, however, understood clearly that Tongchen would seemingly only use the immortal slaying sword formation once during the conferred god tribulation. Furthermore, his opponents Taiking and Yuanqi. Reflecting upon it, the situation was truly tragic. Nua, you are my final disciple, Hongjun continued. These 2 top-grade primordial spirit treasures, the mountain and river map and the red hydrangea ball, one for defense and one for offense, I bestow upon you for your protection. Even a primordial supreme treasure would struggle to inflict harm upon you. Nua was so overjoyed she nearly leapt for joy, receiving them with a radiant expression, her face flushed with excitement. Though they were not primordial supreme treasures, receiving 2 items at once was a great fortune. Furthermore, the Dao ancestor had stated that they could withstand even a primordial supreme treasure. Thus, Nua felt not a hint of dissatisfaction. On the contrary, she was deeply grateful. Many thanks, Master. Master is the best. Fushi, standing nearby, felt joy for his junior sister while simultaneously feeling a sense of helplessness. Her temperament remained far too whimsical and lacked the necessary composure, yet he did not find this trait inherently negative. In the past, he had protected her, and once she attained sainthood, there would be even less need to worry for her life. It was better that she remained innocent and carefree. Contemplating this, Fushi immediately regained his composure. You had now firmly ascertained one thing. It seemed that this Nua was somewhat naive, but upon seeing the indulgent gaze Fu cast upon her, it became immediately clear, with such a powerful brother to protect her, it would be strange if she were not innocent. Yet it was precisely because of this that after Fushi met his end, Nua's personality underwent a drastic transformation. While you were still lost in your thoughts, Hongjun brought forth a spiritual treasure and handed it to Nua, declaring, "This is the Heaven-Refeng Cauldron, a supreme innate spiritual treasure. Keep it well protected." Is there more? Nua was pleasantly surprised, accepting the gift with delight. Thank you, Master. Hongjun nodded, then flicked his wrist to produce several more items, tossing them toward Nua. There are also the 5-colored divine stones, the 3 light holy water, and the precious lotus lamp, all of which are supreme innate spiritual treasures. Take these as well. Wow, there are so many. That is enough, truly enough. Nua's captivating large eyes curved into crescents, and while she accepted the artifacts and insisted it was enough, the expectant look in her eyes betrayed her true thoughts, causing the stoic Hongjun's eyelids to twitch involuntarily as he looked away, pretending not to notice. Seeing this, a flicker of disappointment crossed Nua's small face, but a moment later she became brimming with excitement. clutching the armful of treasures and whispering to Fuxi beside her. Brother, look, Master has given me so many treasures. If any catch your eye, simply take them. Fuxi's heart skipped a beat as he stole a glance at the expressionless Hongjun, then said with a stern face, Junior sister, these were bestowed upon you by our master. You should keep them safe yourself. I understand, she replied. Then I shall store them for now, and we can divide them once we return home. Nua blinked, then tucked all the... Fuxi instantly coughed up a storm. All the big shots around witnessed this scene and looked on with extreme envy. Eyes practically bloodshot. After that supreme grade innate spiritual treasure, Daozu is way too biased, way too rich, damn. You then had a slight thought. All the treasure Daozu bestowed upon Nua held profound meaning. Each and every one was crucial for the development of Hong Huang. Did he plan this far ahead? Hong Yun, this is a supreme grade innate spiritual treasure, the Eastern Green Lotus Banner. Take it for self-defense. Then gifted Hong Yun a blue flag, causing Hong Yun, who originally had no spiritual treasures, to be overjoyed beyond measure. Many thanks, Master. On the other side, seeing Hong Jun bestow treasures one after another, especially the 7 items for Nua Jieyin and Junti, were both envious, expectant, and worried. Expecting to receive some kind of spiritual treasure, worried that everything would be given away and they'd be left with nothing. So seeing Hong Jun gift Hong Yun, Junti suddenly panicked and fearing they'd be left out, knelt down and begged. Teacher, the spiritual veins in the West are barren. No spiritual treasures have been born. We beg Teacher to show mercy and grant us brothers a few spiritual treasures for self-defense. Jieyin also chimed in, wearing a miserable expression. Talk about shameless. The other big shots, witnessing this scene, immediately felt disgusted. No spiritual treasures have been born? Where did the supreme grade spiritual treasures in your hands come from then? So shameless, the teacher definitely won't care. But they were wrong. Hong Jun, seated high on the cloud bed, actually took out 2 spiritual treasures and gave them to Jieyin. These are the supreme grade innate spiritual treasure, the 12th grade golden lotus of merit, and Junti's. This is a supreme grade innate spiritual treasure. I give these treasures to you for self-defense. Many thanks, teacher. Jieyin and Junti were immediately overjoyed. Crying actually worked. Not only did they gain the opportunity to become saints, but they also got spiritual treasures. Looks like they'll have to cry more often in the future. The other big shots who were originally sneering were instantly dumbfounded. This actually works. A moment later, they all knelt down in unison. We beg, please, teacher, grant us spiritual treasures as well. Only you remained unmoved. Now he understood everything. Before Hong Meng, violet energy wasn't given to him but to Jieyin and Junti. Now spiritual treasures are given to these two because of the Dao Devil conflict of the past. Hongjun and Luo Ho's great battle in the West devastated the West's spiritual veins. Many spiritual treasures died before they could even mature, which is why the West is so poor today. Spiritual chi is thin. Spiritual treasures are scarce, so Hongjun is now bestowing both saintly positions and spiritual treasures, obviously trying to settle the karma. Seeing this, you just stand and watch silently. Our boy has set his sights on Fenbao Cliff. If they don't give it, he'll just yoink it. A quasi-saint needs at least 3 Xiantian Lingbao to sever the 3 corpses, but he only has 1 right now. Brokaf. Meanwhile, Tai and Kunpeng, who snatched the futon, have no clue about this. Their eyes are bloodshot. Tai is slightly better off. He still has a Xiantian Jibao, the Chaos Clock. But Kunpeng is screwed. He only has a Shangpin Xiantian Lingbao. He ain't getting any Hongmeng Purple Chi Saintly seat. Looks like he ain't getting any Lingbao either. Turns out he snatched that futon for nothing. Although he heard to the Dao, that's a privilege everyone got. The more Kunpeng thinks about it, the more frustrated he becomes. Unwilling, he begs the old man for mercy. Hongjun looks at the kneeling masses with indifferent eyes but flips his hand, takes out another magic treasure and throws it to a Chunyang Taoist. Dongwangong, you are the first to transform from the pure Yang Qi after the heavens opened. You shall be the leader of the male immortals of Hong Huang. I bestow upon you the Jipin Xiantian Lingbao Dragonhead Crutch. The Chunyang Taoist Dongwangong is initially stunned. Then his face flushes red and he becomes extremely excited. Thank you, old man. Dongwang will manage the male immortals of Hong Huang well and will not fail the old man's expectations. All the male cultivators in Zixiao Palace simultaneously look at him, their eyes full of ill intent. Even you are speechless. The Dao ancestor conferred the title, but at least look in the mirror and weigh yourself to see how much you measure up. An insignificant mid-stage Luo Golden Immortal, with authority but no strength and no power, dares to boast about managing all the male immortals of Hong Huang. This is what happens when your transformation gets hit by Yang Qi straight to the brain, making you an idiot. You were originally planning on making friends? Immediately extinguish this thought. Those who don't know their own limits in Hong Huang won't live long. He doesn't want to find a teammate as dumb as a pig. Meanwhile, Dongwangong, seeing that everyone is looking at him with ill intent, also realizes that he misspoke, but thinking about how he was personally appointed by the Dao ancestor, immediately gains more confidence. He arrogantly looks back at everyone. Seeing this, everyone shakes their heads and withdraws their gaze, but secretly calculates in their hearts. Dongwangong thinks everyone is afraid, immediately puffs out his chest triumphantly. But little does he know that he has offended most of the male cultivators in Zixiao Palace. Hongjun doesn't care about their calculations and throws a bronze mirror to a beautiful female cultivator. Shi Wangmu, you are the first to transform from the pure yin qi after the heavens opened. You shall be the leader of the female immortals of Hong Huang. I bestow upon you the Jipin Xiantian Lingbao, Gulu Mirror. But wait, Shi Wangmu isn't hyped at all. She's straight up panicking. Her pretty face is a mask of terror. The old man just kinda rejected her, and now she can't even speak because Hongjun is staring daggers at her. Thanks, master. And here she is, taking the Kunlun mirror. Shi Wangmu throws an apologetic false smile at the other nosy female cultivators, shrinks her shoulders, and bows her head in submission. Seeing Shi Wangmu's reaction, the other big-shot female cultivators in Zixiao Palace seem to get the memo. They immediately avert their gazes, and Shi Wangmu feels it. Phew, instant relief. That was way too close. She felt like if she didn't show respect, she'd be torn to shreds by the mob in a hot second. Shi Wangmu glances at Dong Wanggong, still Wang his own little, and feels a tinge of pity. He has no clue what's coming for him. Seeing how obedient Shi Wangmu is, our boy can't help but give her a thumbs up in his head. Girl's a real one. Successfully avoided a Hong Huang version of school bullying. After Hongjun finishes rewarding Shi Wangmu, he glances at the expectant crowd and slowly shakes his head. Crushing the hopes of those who haven't gotten their treasures yet. Is he out of loot or just gatekeeping now? The crowd's in shambles, is so salty he could spit blood. Still no love from the old man, the disrespect. Hongjun's eyes are distant, his face calm as he looks at the masses. He slowly opens his mouth. All Xiantian spiritual treasures are predestined. I've placed all the other magic items on Fenbao Cliff. You can go there yourselves. Those with fate can obtain them. No sooner does Hongjun finish speaking than a figure zooms towards the gates of Zixiao Palace. Bro's gotta go fast, it's that shameless bastard again. The other big shots curse out loud and immediately start chasing after him like madmen. Kunpeng is going ballistic, his true form. The nine heavens dapping, covering the sky and earth with wings like clouds. Dapping extreme speed, activate. Our boy zooming ahead hears the cursing turtle noises behind him. He can't help but smirk. First come, first served losers, cry me a river. I'm not leaving you guys a single feather. Seeing the gates of Zixiao Palace right in front of him with everyone else still lagging way. But then a gigantic shadow carrying a whirlwind zoomed over his head, bolting out of the Zixiao Palace, leaving behind a burst of unrestrained laughter. Haha, thanks for letting me have the Kunpeng. Almost made me rage quit. Just because you got an extra pair of wings, you think you can bully others? Gritting his teeth in frustration, he lowered his head and continued to charge forward. The treasure distribution rock was deep within the Zixiao Palace. You barely won one round, face full of blankness. Turning your head to look at Hongjun, all leisurely and carefree. You noticed the corners of Hongjun's mouth slightly twitching upwards. Then the man vanished without a trace. Your chest tightened up. This was absolutely intentional. The other big shots were momentarily stunned, then burst into laughter, turning around and rushing towards the depths of the Zixiao Palace. These novels are gonna be the death of me. You cried out in grief, turning around and chasing after them like a madman, but an even more grief-stricken voice came from outside the Zixiao Palace. Damn you, you've harmed me even worse. The voice was like a cuckoo crying blood, and a moment later, the Kunpeng frantically flapped its wings, flying back from outside the Zixiao Palace at top speed, the frustration in its heart almost causing it to explode. Why is he always the one getting hurt? Hearing the tragic roar behind you, you felt a bit guilty and shrank your neck. You really couldn't blame him for this, he was also a victim. You used the Xiantian 9 steps to the limit, but still couldn't catch up to the big shots. Mainly because you charged too hard just now. Same for Kunpeng, still a short distance away from you, making him so angry he almost coughed up blood. Looking at the others who had already rushed to the treasure distribution rock, radiating heavenly treasure light, frantically looting spiritual treasures, your eyes turned bloodshot, shouting, "Leave some for me, please!" But no one bothered to pay attention to him. By the time you and Kunpeng arrived at the treasure distribution rock, it was already empty. All the spiritual treasures had been completely looted. You looked at the smug faces of the people around you, pointing at them for a long time, unable to say a word. Is this bozo really trying to justify himself? Bro left him with absolutely nothing. Kunpeng, face turning green, stares at you, trembling with rage, gnashing his teeth. My guy, you got some explaining to do. You listen, lips trembling from the sheer audacity of it all. Bro, I'm a victim here too. Kunpeng choked, looking up to the heavens, letting out a mournful cry. He regretted it so much. Why did he trust a stranger? If it wasn't for his world-renowned speed, who could outrun him? Thinking back to the dazzling treasure light he saw earlier, Kunpeng's heart was bleeding out. Aw, my little treasures. Senior brother, they look so pitiful, couldn't even snatch a single magic item. Lovlu's voice suddenly rings out, filled with an almost mocking sense of pity. Whoosh! You and Kunpeng whirl around simultaneously. Is she really trying to twist the knife? But before either of you can explode, Envio's next sentence makes your eyes instantly soften. How about we just give them one? Haha, you immediately puff out your chest, cupping your hands in gratitude. Thank you, fellow Taoist and Vibois. This humble one will definitely repay you one day. No, too. As soon as you say this, everyone else is disgusted. You don't even care about stealing. Are you worried about saving face now? Can you even use face to forge spirit treasures? Besides, all these guys already looted spirit treasures, easy for them to talk. They weren't looking any better when they were begging Dao Ancestor Hongjun for one. Most importantly, Dao Ancestor basically snatched up all the good spirit treasures in Hong Huang at the treasure distribution cliff. Anything floating around is either super rare, not fully formed, someone else's soulbound treasure, or Maya. If he doesn't grab it now, he'll have to start robbing people later to get a decent